Get straight to the point. Again, it was probably around 5:45, 6 a.m. this morning. I had a very vivid dream. In this dream, I had an individual whom I personally know, who's in my family, come to me in this dream, and he says, "Have you? You need to check the news out." And I said, "Why? What's going on?" He said, "It's on all over the radio. It's on the television." I said, "What is it?" He said, "You need to go turn the television on." I said, "Okay, okay, okay." And I turn on the television. And what I'm going to show you, and I try to find an image that would best depict what I saw in my dream. So this is the best thing I could find, and I'll elaborate a little bit more on this as I'm talking about this. But I'm going to show you what. And this is an image of America being invaded. And in this image, they're being invaded from the west and from the east. But in the dream, I saw a map just like this. Now I didn't see these towers right here, so this wasn't in there. But I saw from the west, from the east, and from the north. There was nothing coming from the south. Okay, in this dream, I heard the newscast. The news broadcaster said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing extraordinary events that are taking place in America. It is apparent that we are being invaded." And I heard this in my dream. And he said, if there was ever a time to pray, it would be now. That's all I heard in this dream. Now, here's where it gets crazy. Ready? Again, I saw there was an invasion coming from the west, from the east, and it was coming from the north. And it was, and I want to say this is where it became detailed. It was air and sea. Again, let me say that again. It was air and sea. I saw bombers and warships, submarines. Again, warships, submarines, and bombers. It was coming from in these. And again, it was on the news. We were sitting here watching this on the news, and you could see them coming in from the west. They were coming in from the east, and they were coming in from the north. There was nothing coming in from the south. Now, guys, here's where it gets chilling. Again, I'm not going to add, I don't want to add anything to this, but what I saw this is where it gets a little chilling. Again, when I saw again, it was from sea and air. I saw bombers, submarines, and warships that were coming in. And for whatever reason, when I saw these different types of military vehicles and so on and so forth, when they were like zoomed in, it was amplified to me. And this is what I saw. I saw the colors on the nation that was invading us. I was permitted to see the colors, and this is what I saw, guys. That is the colors, and everybody knows what that is. That was very bold. It was bright. And I saw this color. This is the color of Russia's flag. And I saw this when it was coming from the west, the east, and from the north. Again, I heard the commentator, the journalist, the newscaster say, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing extraordinary events taking place in America. It is apparent, or it appears that we are being invaded, or we are under attack." Some of them words were interchanged in this dream. And I heard, again, these towers, guys, was not in the dream. Again, I pulled this map because this is the best thing I can show you. But these towers, this has nothing to do with what I saw. So please ignore the towers. You're going to have to go back and watch this again. Again, take these towers out of it. This has nothing to do with it. I'm talking about, if you're just joining me, I had a dream this morning, a very vivid dream. I'm going to go over this one more time, then you guys can go back and watch this. So, of course, I knew there'd be scoffers that would make light, and that's okay. Again, I have no dog in the fight. I have nothing to gain from this. If anything, I know that I'm going to gain a lot of scoffing from it. But as a watchman, I have to come out and I have to say what I did see. Regardless of what people think or their opinions, I will just declare to you what I see.
And with that in mind, on Monday night, I had another dream. And it woke me from my bed. I made notes about it. I shot some video of myself, just making sure I can remember. But here's what I saw. I saw a calendar. Start with a calendar. And as I was having this, the calendar was up, a white figure appeared. And to me, it was representing God, the Holy Spirit, something pure, something righteous, something true, something holy, because there was nothing sinister about it, nothing evil. But I heard the voice say, part two, part two. And I saw June go up. I saw July, I saw August, and then I saw September. And I saw the finger underneath the word September, and like emphasizing it, and tapped it 3 times. And then I saw October come up, and then I saw November. And this is when it got real to me in the dream. I think the intensity, according to my Fitbit, when I woke up, my heart rate was about 180. So that was Monday night. It was also a night that I woke up not feeling very well at all. I was up during the night, not feeling well. But anyway, the minute the finger underlined November 3 times, instead of tapping it, I saw a fist ball up and it hit the calendar. And literally, the calendar exploded into the wall. The numbers seemed like they were 3D and they were just flying everywhere. And there was a cloud of chaos that started. And then the next thing I saw was I saw armed protesters. I saw fighting in the streets. I saw people pummeling one another. I saw businesses shuttered and shut up. I saw schools closed. I saw schoolrooms with cobwebs hanging in them, and like things like papers falling off the wall and posters falling, like no one had been in them for months. I saw bank buildings with the roofs being taken off. And it looked almost like alien abduction because money was just flying through the roof into some type of like a vacuum cleaner. I know it sounds kind of strange, but I was watching wealth just being taken. I saw politicians in back rooms making deals with people, patting people on the back and laughing and smiling and smirking. And I saw monuments. I saw Washington, D.C. burning. I saw Washington, D.C. blazing. I saw fires everywhere. I saw people being rounded up. I saw Chinese and Russian soldiers on the ground. And Russian soldiers were telling the Chinese soldiers to go and pick up these people, round up these people, secure this quadrant, secure this area. I saw blue helmets of the UN. I saw military things taking place. I also saw no sign of President Trump. I saw no sign of leadership in Washington, D.C. But the vultures that I had seen were now like gargoyles, and they were 10 feet off the ground, 10 to 15 feet off the ground. And they were just attacking people mercilessly. I saw people hiding in their homes and garages. I saw churches being burned. I saw homes being burned. I saw absolute chaos. And the fist punch on the November of 2020 is what got my attention. And then I heard the words again, brace yourself.
3 weeks to a month before I joined the military, I had this dream. And here's what the dream was. So the dream started, and I remember, so it was like a war going on. And I remember it was Russia. And they were, and I was in military uniform. And I remember that the Russian tanks, all these tanks and all that, they were coming towards us. And they were shooting everywhere. They were shooting at us, military, and they were shooting at civilians. They were shooting at everyone. Whoever was in their way that wasn't Russian, they were shooting at them. And I remember in the dream, as they were shooting, I heard people screaming. I heard mothers yelling. I heard mothers crying. I heard crying, screaming, everything. And I remember us, Americans, we were shooting back and everything, but we didn't have tanks. We didn't have anything electronical. It was weird. We didn't have anything like tanks, anything electronical. And we only had guns. That's all we had, and that's all that worked. That's all we had. I think we had grenades, but basically I remember I was hidden in a trench, and I got up, and I remember I yelled, or someone yelled, cover fire. And then I remember I got up and I just started shooting. I had a machine gun, and I was shooting, and I was picking some people off, but I couldn't pick off a lot because it was just a lot of tanks coming towards us. It was a lot of tanks and just a few Russian troops, just walking slow, in squads and everything. And yeah, so it was a lot of yelling. We're like, cover fire, cover fire. And then all of a sudden the scene switched. And I remember I saw Kim Jong-un's face, and I saw his face, and he looked very serious. Like his eyes, he was just very serious. And then all of a sudden, he was looking over a balcony, and I think he was looking over his troops, and I heard him yell the word, fire, and he yelled it real loud. And right when he said fire, it was like the vision switched where I saw a missile silo. And out of this missile silo, all of a sudden a missile came out of it. And when this missile came out of it, it started going up in the air. And the funny thing is, the scene switched again, and my whole body was levitating over Earth. And God let me see this missile go over Earth, and I saw its path. And it went right to the location where we were fighting, basically right over America. And as it went and as it got over America, the location, the scene switched, and I was back on the battlefield, and I was shooting and everything. And we were just fighting back and forth, but we were losing badly because all we had were guns. We didn't have any tanks, anything. But the Russians, they had all the tanks, they had all the, they had all the armor, they had everything. They were beating us bad. Then all of a sudden, while I was fighting the Russians off, I remember I looked up in the sky and I saw a missile. I saw that missile that Kim Jong-un said fire. I saw it right above us, and right when I saw it, me and everyone else I was fighting with, and even the citizens around the area, we just were in shock and awe. I remember I dropped my gun, I looked up in the sky, and my jaw just dropped. I was like, oh my gosh. And I dropped my gun, and it was like I was in full surrender. And that missile just came down, and right when it touched the ground, I remember it just blew up, and right when the fire basically destroyed me, I woke up. And then, actually, before I woke up, I remember before the fire hit me, it was like I looked at the map, and I just saw more Russian tanks, more Russian mobilization coming towards where we were at. So I remember the fire hit me, I basically died, and then I looked above the area, and there was, what we were fighting, that was just the beginning. There was a lot more coming. And right when I saw that, I woke up.
I remember I was walking in this neighborhood down the street, and there was a crowd of people in the streets. And it started off kind of small, and then the crowd got bigger, and the people were coming out of their houses, and they were all like gathered together. Some had their children on their hip or with them, and looking, they started looking back in one direction. And when they started looking back, I remember thinking, what are they looking at? And so, as I was walking with a couple of family members, we turned and looked back, and all of a sudden, it happened so quick. These Humvees started pulling up. And when these Humvees started pulling up in the neighborhood, they had all these soldiers on the Humvees. And I remember someone saying, the beast is coming, the beast is coming. And I looked and I seen all these Chinese soldiers on these Humvees with weapons in their hands. And they started jumping off the Humvees and, you know, rushing into the street. And when they were rushing into the street, I thought that, you know, when they were running into the street, they were going to like attack the regular citizens. But I'm telling you what they did. Instead of them attacking the regular citizens, the wicked, they didn't touch the wicked. They left them in the streets, and these individuals was watching they began to go after Christians. And so they were coming up to the people asking them, "Are you a Christian? Are you a Christian?" And if you said yes, or if you stood there and you didn't deny it, then they would round them up and make them get in the Humvee. Or some of them, when I heard this, I remember I started running and I ran into this house. And when I went into this house, with a couple of other people, and I was telling the individuals in the house to lock the doors and pull the curtains down. And I was telling them that China was outside and that they were coming, for the Christians, and they were going to kill and annihilate the Christians. This was they weren't wanting to lock them up, nothing of that nature. They actually wanted to kill them. They, on one of the Humvees, pulled out a hose, and they began to go in the houses and drag the Christians out of the houses. And when they drug them out, they tied their hands behind their back and they lined them up. They made them line up, and they began to spray this acid, some type of yellow looking acid, out of the hoses onto, it's like a fire hose that comes out of a fire truck, but this, instead of the water, it was acid coming out. They were spraying it on the Christians, and it was, the people were screaming. It was burning their flesh, and they were killing them with this acid, hosing them down with it. And I remember when I was in this house, they started like shooting at the house to get, I guess, an open passageway, and they started spraying the acid in the house. And I ran out of the house, and when I ran out of the house, I come around to the side and I managed to start running down the street. And when I started running down the street, I seen these huge helicopters in the sky, and they were unmarked, and they began to drop bombs everywhere. And I was running, and as I was running, because I've had this, I mean, this was some years ago, and I think I said something to the Holy Spirit. I was saying to him, and all of a sudden, as I was running, it's like something shut my eyes and blinded me from seeing what was the rest of what was happening. From seeing what was the rest of what was happening. And I could hear, as I was running, the guns, the shooting, the people screaming. They started gunning the people down in the road, people running everywhere, scattering. You could hear bombs dropping and everything. And then I woke up out of the dream.
Hey, Pastor Dana here. Between Friday, August 28th and Thursday, September 4th, I had a series of glimpses and dreams that got longer each night. And I'm seeing more and more things in my dreams that are apocalyptic, frightening. I don't share these dreams to cause people to have fear. But I saw the calendar of December, and I saw a finger underlined slowly and like it was pushing, slowly and forcefully, under the name December. Flipped over to January and then underlined it just as slow and was pushing. First thing I saw was long food lines. I saw people waiting for what seemed like hours. And they were standing in line and not in cars. And I saw this throughout the nation. I saw ships in ports on both the east and the west coast. They were just sitting idle. There was nothing moving at sea. Nothing. And I saw a headline that said the Baltic Dry Index is dead. It said that nothing was moving in trade around the world. And one thing I noted, there were no Christmas lights. This was December. There were no holiday displays. There were no sales mentioned. No Christmas lights, no Christmas displays, no Santa Claus, no Easter, no Christmas type things going on at all. was a great sadness over the land, and people seemed very dazed and they seemed very confused. But there were Christians who stood out because they had faith, they had hope in Christ, and they looked like burning charcoal, and they were carrying torches wherever they went. And a lot of people rejected their approach, but they kept their faith. They didn't back down from telling people about Jesus, and they kept telling people that they desperately need Jesus at that moment. It was, you need Jesus now. You need Jesus now. You need Jesus now. Don't wait. You don't have tomorrow. You need Jesus now. And a lot of it was rejected, but there were some that were coming and surrendering and praying and being saved in the dream. I saw what looked like shopping malls that had been converted into shelters or living quarters. So it reminded me of Hurricane Katrina when it came through, and the football stadium. The businesses in those malls were shuttered, but I saw people on cots, and I saw food outreach things going on. I saw people who were misplaced. This was not like a homeless shelter. This was like something had happened and people were in shelters. I continued to see shuttered properties. I saw people in homes who were wearing coats, while the windows they were looking at closed curtains, and that's been a consistent thing in the dreams. People inside their homes looking out what's going on. And when people were looking out the curtains came back far enough that I could see more of the snow-like stuff that was on the road. It was dingy, it was dark, it was gray. It wasn't white, pure snow like after a first fresh snowfall. I saw headlines that said nationwide outages plagued the Southwest. Another headline that said Americans don't know who to blame for darkness. And some of the darkness in the areas is stretched into Canada. It was north. It wasn't everywhere, but I saw America as lights flickering. And it was like I saw the whole contour outline of the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii. And it was like it was a light flick, like right before a light goes out, it flickers, it starts flashing. That was what it looked like. It was like America was a light bulb about to go out. I saw vultures. Food hanging out of their mouth. These vultures were heavy. A word I don't like to use is the word fat, but these vultures were fat. And they had rotting food hanging out of their mouths. I saw depression as a figure, as a creature. And it had a face mask on with a smile, but it was choking people and pushing them down to the ground. And then I saw the St. Louis Arch, and I saw people standing under the St. Louis Arch in very, very expensive business suits. All of them had very expensive watches, and at their feet were these briefcases, larger than briefcases, almost like it reminded me of like a nuclear suitcase, a nuclear briefcase that they talked about in the 80s. And suddenly all of their alarms went off at the same time, and they hit them, and they grabbed the briefcase, and they got into these black SUVs. And of course, the Mississippi River goes right through there. It divides the country. And I saw them get in the black SUVs, and they went east, and they were going all over the place. Each of them had a Wall Street Journal newspaper under their arms, and they had heavily tinted sunglasses. And the next headlines that I read were about market crashes, about yields being lost. And one of the headlines declared sympathy for the swastika. I saw tired crowds. I saw tired people. I saw many who had lost the resolve to fight due to the emotional overcast of the nation. And I heard Christians, that group of Christians that was going around with hope, I heard them saying that they remember what Jesus had said about the winter and having to flee in winter. But they kept encouraging one another in their faith. I saw lights all over the country. I knew these lights were churches. whether they were churches like we think of today, or whether they were house churches. But and I felt in my spirit, did not hear this, but felt as I was watching this, that these churches were keeping warmth and hope in their communities. That white figure rose up out of one of those lights, and he said, brace yourself, brace yourself on the word and my promises, and do not rely on your own strength.
A vision that the Lord gave me on December 13th, 2017. And the Lord really put it in my heart to share this again. And it's about an invasions of nuclear war, World War III, invasion of Russia and China on the United States, civil war in the United States, martial law. And so the Lord really put it in my heart to share this again with you. And as we're seeing the situation with Russia and China and the tensions growing more and more every day, and we're seeing what's going on in the news, we're seeing that the situation is getting more and more grievous. And so I wanted to bring this to you. I'm also going to share a piece of a dream that the Lord gave Dmitry Duduman. And a lot of the things that the Lord shared with him, there's similarities with the things that the Lord gave me. And so I just want to share these with you. And again, the first picture that I'm going to share with you is kind of like an underground. I was sort of in an underground scenario. And so let's go ahead and see this. So the vision started like this. I was in a room. Before me was a table. And I could audibly hear talks about nuclear war starting, and it had to do with the USA. I had the knowing that it was going to be war all over the world. I knew it was going to be World War III as well. But at first, something happened to the nation. Something happened to America. It was either a natural disaster or something big. A false flag attack where there were a lot of people that were dead and a lot of people that were injured. There was a civil war, a revolution type thing going on. The nation was in chaos, and America was already weak at that point. Then I saw a world map on the table where I saw the USA, Russia, and China. And as I'm hearing all the talks in the background coming from different cities in America, I have the sense that the East Coast and the West Coast were attacked. I remember doing my own map and circling on a piece of paper very strong around the word USA. And right next to it, I wrote the word USSR. I did not write Russia. I wrote USSR. And I circled it very strongly. And I circled both of them to indicate that Russia was invading America by nuclear war. So there was a lot of talk in the background that was coming from all over the nation. And I could hear government agencies talking, and the government could not deal with all the issues that were going on at once. And it was like everywhere there was chaos, rioting, people crying, screaming, weeping. Government agencies were on high alert. Ambulances, sirens, alarms. There was darkness outside. There was lots of disaster. And it just invasions all over America. There was plundering everywhere. Like I mentioned, there was darkness outside. I don't know if it was because of an EMP or obviously from all the nuclear attacks. Just a lot of commotion and confusion. And I also had the sense of martial law. And so Russia had attacked first. And missiles were like I said, launched from Russia. And then China attacked. And I had a knowing that both countries were in on it. In China, there were missiles already set up, and they were being launched from there. There were so many missiles that they were coming towards the USA. There were just too many to count. And I started to draw on my piece of paper where the missiles were coming from and what direction they were being launched from. And so I started to draw lines to represent the missiles. And like I said, I drew so many lines coming to the USA. And I also had a knowing that there was something else. There was a secret area where they had missiles and bombs, and it was like a stealth operation. That's the word that I kept playing in my mind. This is a stealth operation. So unseen, unknown. No one knew where the bombs were, but I could see that they were coming from China or some area around China. And it was, again, like I said, a secret because it wasn't a known place to the world. This was the knowing I had in the dream or the vision, that it wasn't a known place in the world, and they had already all the missiles set up and ready for launching. So people were not expecting that it was coming from there. But there were stealth technologies that were being put in place, or that were used for things that were hidden locations with stealth technology. And as I said, it was unknown to others, but they already had the missiles and everything ready to launch at the minute that they were ready. And so after this, I woke up. So after the Lord gave me this vision, I remembered the vision that the Lord had given Dumitru Duduman. And I don't know if you know him, but he was a Romanian Christian who spent many years smuggling Bibles. And over a 15-year period, he smuggled more than 300,000 Bibles into Russia. In 1980, he was imprisoned for his activities, and he was tortured very severely. They tried to kill him, but the angel of the Lord protected Dumitru. The colonel who tried to kill him dropped dead very suddenly, and he was quickly released from prison. So an angel of the Lord told him he would be expelled from Romania on July 22, 1984. So I will go ahead and start reading his vision. And this was given to him in September 1984 when he was already here in America. And it's called America Will Burn. So it starts, late one night I could not sleep. The children were sleeping on the luggage. My wife and daughter were crying. I went outside and walked around. I didn't want them to see me cry. I walked around the building crying and saying, God, why did you punish me? Why did you bring me into this country? I can't understand anybody. If I try to ask anybody anything, all I hear is, I don't know. I stopped in front of the apartment and sat on a large rock. Suddenly, a bright light came toward me. I jumped to my feet because it looked as if a car was coming directly at me, attempting to run me down. I thought the Romanian secret police had dragged me to America, and now they were trying to kill me. But it wasn't a car at all. As the light approached, it surrounded me. From the light, I heard the same voice that I had heard so many times in prison. He said, Dumitru, why are you so despaired? I said, why did you punish me? Why did you bring me to this country? I have nowhere to lay my head down. I can't understand anybody. He said, Dumitru, didn't I tell you I am here with you also? I brought you to this country because this country will burn. I said, then why did you bring me here to burn? Why didn't you let me die in my own country? You should have let me die in jail in Romania. He said, Dumitru, have patience so I can tell you. Get on this. I got on something next to him. I don't know what it was. I also know that I was not asleep. So he was not asleep when he saw this. It was not a dream. It was not a vision. I was awake just as I am now. He showed me all of California and said, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. All of this, in one day, it will burn. Its sin has reached the Holy One. Then he took me to Las Vegas. This is Sodom and Gomorrah, and one day it will burn. Then he showed me the state of New York. Do you know what this is? He asked. I said, no. He said, this is New York. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. In one day it will burn. Then he showed me all of Florida. This is Florida. He said, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. In one day it will burn. Then he took me back home to the rock where he had begun. All of this I have shown you. In one day it will burn. I said, how will it burn? He said, remember what I am telling you, because you will go on television, on the radio, and in churches. You must yell with a loud voice. Do not be afraid, because I will be with you. I said, how will I be able to go? Who knows me here in America? I don't know anybody here. He said, do not worry yourself. I will go before you. I will do a lot of healing in the American churches, and I will open the doors for you. But do not say anything else besides what I tell you. This country will burn. I said, what will you do to the church? With the church? He said, I want to save the church, but the churches have forsaken me. I said, how did they forsake you? He said, the people praise themselves. They honor that people are supposed to give Jesus Christ. They take upon themselves. In the churches there are divorces. There is adultery in the churches. There are homosexuals in the churches. There is abortion in the churches, and all the sins that are possible. Because of the sin, I have left some of the churches. You must yell in a loud voice that they must put an end to their sinning. They must turn toward the Lord. The Lord never gets tired of forgiving. They must draw close to the Lord. I live a clean life. If they have sinned until now, they must put an end to it and start a new life as the Bible tells them to live. I said, how will America burn? America is the most powerful country in this world. Why did you bring us here to burn? Why didn't you at least let us die where all the Dudumans have died? He said, remember this, Dumitru. The Russian spies have discovered where the nuclear warehouses are in America. When the Americans will think that it is peace and safety, from the middle of the country, some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the ocean, from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Mexico, he told me 2 other countries, but I didn't remember what they were. They will bomb the nuclear warehouses. When they explode, America will burn. What will you do with the church of the Lord? How will you save the ones that will turn toward you? I asked. He said, tell them this, how I saved the 3 young ones from the furnace of fire, and how I saved Daniel in the lion's den. It's the same way I will save them. But another important part of it, he had another vision where he was called, Why Did God Name America Mystery Babylon? And it was in 1984 as well. Said, tell them, because all the nations of the world immigrated to America with their own gods and were not stopped. Encouraged by the freedom here, the wickedness began to increase. Later on, even though America was established as a Christian nation, the American people began to follow the strange gods that the immigrants had brought in, and also turned their backs on the God who had built and prospered this country. And share it with your people, share it with your family, share it with your friends, let them know. And in Jesus' name, take it to the Lord. Seek Him in prayer and take Him to the Lord and ask Him for understanding, ask Him for confirmation. Okay? And again, I love you guys. I bless you. If you're not saved, do not wait till tomorrow. Ask the Lord, get on your knees, repent. Turn from your wicked ways. Turn from your lukewarmness. and repent. Remember, the Lord said in the book of Revelations, if you're lukewarm, He will vomit you out of His mouth. We cannot be lukewarm. We have to be on fire for the Lord. And we have to be about our Father's business. And we have to be committed to Him and doing His commandments. And so I beg you today to make that commitment if you're not walking closely with the Lord. He loves you. He adores you. He died for you. He prepares a place for you in heaven. And so we got to get a hold of His promises. We got to get a hold of all His word. And stay close to the Lord and cleave on to Him. Cleave on to Him.